Yeah, you know, if you want opportunities, if you want people to give you chances and to let you do this and to let you do that, then the best thing to do is to go and just create your own thing.
Killa Kela Podcast. KillaKelaOfficial.com.
Killa Kela Podcast Live Show. Step into the live and dangerous world of music and street culture's #1 magazine platform, the Killa Kela Podcast Live Show. Special guests alongside performances, news, reviews, profile pieces to a live studio audience. Your monthly live stream is here. Hit Facebook page Killa Kela Official. 101.4 FM, 24 hours a day, all genres.
XFM.co.uk.
Beatbox created.
Killa Kela.
And we're here to talk about world music and street culture.
Killa Kela Podcast.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen. Big shout out to Graffiti Kings inside the place and all affiliates. It's Killa Kela Podcast. I'm coming to you live Central London, or central as you need to be. And with this lockdown, it's a perfect opportunity to go a little bit more out of town, more global. But at the moment, we're the South Coast with a young man representing to the fullest, good friend of mine. Let me just run this down. Rapper, author, podcaster, speaker, author of Strong Advice book, female weightlift record holder, and more. The Mr. Zuby inside the place. How you doing, brother?
Yeah, always good, bro. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. Wow. When was our last podcast? I was trying to work it out. It must have been like middle of this time last year, right?
Around this time, yeah, it was about a year ago. I think, was it before or after my deadlift? I want to say it may have been, I think it was February last year.
Yeah, I think you're right.
I think February last year.
Before the deadlift.
I think it was before that. I think it was before stuff went crazy.
Shit was crazy. It was amazing. I was, you know, we said this before we gone on to this. I live vicariously through your Twitter, and there's just like a couple of moments where I'm just like, pass me the fucking popcorn. This is amazing.
Yeah.
Talk about antagonizing people. It's just fucking genius, bro.
I've apparently come up on some problematic Twitter lists of people who should not be followed, but I think it's fine.
Yeah.
I've had people follow me and then DM me saying that they hope they won't get in trouble for following me. So,
well, that's the thing, isn't it? People, my favorite band's Motorhead, right? And one thing that in an interview they were saying, you know, when they first started, everyone said that they were the worst band of the world, but the audience kept on growing because everyone wanted to see the worst band in the world. You know, the irony of it, because your numbers are you know, tell no lies, bro. Like you've gone from what was this time last year is what I knew as a fan was a rapper, and then all of a sudden, like, you know, you opened the Pandora box of Zuby, and it's like you got a lot of things going on, bro. Like, where'd you find the time for this stuff, bro?
Yeah, man. So it's tricky. I'm still working to master it all myself so that, you know, there's only one of me. And one thing a lot of people don't realize is I do pretty much everything. So I do most of my own graphic design and merchandise design and website design. I do all of the back end stuff. I do the sales stuff. Of course, I write my own songs. And the only thing I don't really do is produce and mix my tracks. But besides that, anything else you see coming out from anything, social media, videos, podcasts, whatever, I do 95% of it. It's almost all me. So time management is something that's difficult. What I do tend to do is sort of dedicate different days to different things. So whatever is my top priority at that moment. So I have times where I sort of shift between creative mode and business mode. So I might have a day where it's like, okay, cool, I've got 4 podcasts and interviews in this day. I'm going to just sort of dedicate this day to that. I have some days where I'm like, okay, I want to focus on promoting and selling my book. So I'm going to be promoting my fitness content. I'm going to be giving out advice. I'm going to be pushing some kind of sale. I have days where it's like, you know what? I just want to focus on music, forget all of the other stuff. Let me just go into this creative zone and do that. So that's generally how I do it. But It is certainly
How do you
challenging.
cut into the creative zone? Sorry, I just want to interject there. How do you cut into the creative zone, and where? I find it takes me about 7 to 11 minutes to find my creative space in my head, coming out of some bullshit or some intense techers thing that I can't normally get my head out of. Like, how do you flip from creative head to work head like that, and on assigned days? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think by splitting it on different days, that actually helps. If I have a day where I try to do everything, then I just won't do them all very well. So with me, I mean, even when I get into like deep creative mode, I'll normally be there for a matter of weeks. So if it's like, okay, I want to just write a load of songs, so I can go for 6 months without writing a single song, but then in 2 weeks, I can write a whole bunch of songs. And that's from me just sort of getting in that zone and staying in that zone. Same with podcasts. I have periods where, I'm knocking out 10, 15 podcasts a week, and that's fine because I'm just in that zone and I just sort of sit here in front of the microphone and I do that. So it's certainly a challenge, but what helps is that I love and I enjoy everything I do. And I know that everything I do, the ultimate fundamental goal of everything that comes out of the world of Zuby is really about impacting and inspiring other people. So whether that's through my music or my fitness stuff or my social media posts or my podcast, anything that I do, the fundamental big goal of it always is to have an positive, inspirational impact on other people. So as long as I keep that in mind, it makes stuff easier because I know why I'm doing what I'm doing. I think if you know why you're doing what you're doing, then you can always work out the how.
I love that. And I think you speak, well, you said it resonates with me because I said to you from the jump, I'm like, dude, like, I'm inspired by your hustle, the attack of it, the common sense of it all, it just feels like it's a very natural thing for you to do. It comes across as natural anyway, and I do love that.
Yeah, thank you, man. Thank you. It very much is. I mean, you've met me in real life, and I'm not a persona. So who I am in the real world versus who I am on stage versus who I am on an interview, you're not going to get sort of 3 or 4 totally different Zubys. It's just like, look, this is just me. Some people will get it. Some people won't. Some people will misunderstand some aspects of everything. But I'm just me. I don't play a character. I mean, even as an artist, I mean, I've always gone by my actual name. So Zuby is my name, and Zuby is my rapper name. It's not like, okay, I'm going on stage, I'm putting on some sort of mask or some sort of persona, and I'll go out there and I'll do that, which some artists and some bands do, which is fine. They have their artist sort of character and that persona. And then when they're outside of it, it's a whole different thing. With me, it's all the same. So it's in some ways that makes it easier, and in some ways I think maybe it makes it more difficult as well, because I think when people I think when people like you and when people love you, then it's all good because it's directly linked to your person as well. But also when you have people who are saying mean things about you or who are detracting or whatever, you can't sort of separate the character and the art from the person because they are one and the same. So it's a tricky thing, but I think ultimately what seems to have happened in my career is that the more me I am, the more successful I become. So
I love that.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah.
I love that. Like you were talking up there, and we did speak about it a little bit in the chat we have for the live stream last night. What I'm feeling is that if you were a logo or a label such as Nike, people, it's like a flag, isn't it? Like people that they want something to hold as that's the go-to sign. That is a brand that we trust. It's a logo. It resonates from our childhood. When you're a human being representing a brand or yourself, you are subject to critique, and there's no getting away from it, is there?
No, and it's interesting because you also get people who think they know everything about you, and they sort of put you in their own mental box or their own brand box, and then they sort of want to critique you when you step outside of it. So I've had people sort of tell me that, oh, this is, I've had people say to me that something is off brand. Maybe I've tweeted something or I've put out some video or something, and someone's like, oh, this doesn't fit your brand. And I was like, no, but this is, I don't have a brand. My brand is just me. I'm just being authentic. I'm just showing people what I do here. To give a great example, which is quite relevant. And it's interesting because I know what they mean, but to me, it's just a totally different thing. So I went to the US last year, and when I went to Texas, I was in Dallas, and one of my friends invited me to the shooting range, to the gun range. So I was there, you know, shooting a Glock 17, an AR-15, and, you know, just shooting at paper targets, obviously. And I posted a video of it on social media, and, you know, most people had no problem with it. Most people were like, oh, this is cool. I hope you enjoyed it, whatever. But some people were like, oh my gosh, Zuby is shooting a gun. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, because obviously I'm a positive rapper. I don't rap about gangbanging and shooting people and this. So some people are like, oh my gosh, he posted this video of him shooting a gun. And it's like, I'm at a range. This would be like me with a bow and arrow shooting targets, or, you know, playing darts or something like this. I'm not glorifying violence. I'm not promoting, you know, I'm not promoting, go get this gun and go shoot. It's like, it's a very different thing. So I can sort of understand what people mean. But at the same time, I'm like, hey, I'm in Texas. Like, I'm showing you what I'm doing as I'm traveling around Texas. I'm not saying like, oh my gosh, this is, it's not to glorify violence. It's just like, hey, I'm in Texas. In Texas, this is what people do. This is part of the culture. And look here, I'm just going to show you guys me doing this thing.
But they took it as like you were off brand. That was kind of...
Yeah, exactly. So So I think sometimes people don't understand the sort of nuance there. Or, for example, I've had someone criticize me for. So I have a song, like in my song "Glory," I say something. What is it? I'm trying to think of what someone was criticizing me for. So there's a part in the song, I'm trying to think of the exact lyrics. I'm basically saying how, as a rapper, I'm questioning if maybe I would be more popular if I did rap about guns and I did rap about violence and whatever. And someone was like, oh my gosh, you said the word cocaine in this song. And I said, yes, I said it in that context. I said it in like a critical context. I didn't say it as in like, like do cocaine. But they're like, yeah, but you still said the word. And it's like, I'm like, the context matters here. There's a big difference between saying, don't sell cocaine and saying sell cocaine. Those are really, those are two different statements. You see what I mean? Like if you say, kids don't do drugs, and someone is like, oh my gosh, you said drugs, you're promoting drugs. And you're like, wait, what? I just said something critical about them. So yeah, some people get stuff twisted, but here's something I've noticed. This is the way I look at it now, especially as my audience has grown, is anything you say, you're going to get thousands of different translations and interpretations of it. So if you say something and you put something out there and 1,000 people listen to it or 1,000 people read it, you will get 1,000 slightly different interpretations of it. So you know what you meant, but every single person, and most people will probably be close to what you meant. And this can go with song lyrics as well. I mean, you see this with song lyrics, don't you? When people are like, oh, what did they mean by that or whatever?
They own it all of a sudden. They have ownership of what they think it means. Right?
Exactly. And everyone has their own slightly different interpretation. You see this all the time. Someone makes a statement and one person is like, this is what they meant. And you're like, no, that's not what they meant. They meant this. And then the person who actually said it is like, no, like I meant this. And everyone has their own thing.
And then off it goes,
Yeah. And especially when you've got, I don't know, hundreds of thousands of people all seeing something. A great example was, you were talking about that deadlift tweet I did, right? The number of different interpretations of why I did it and what my intentions were and what was meant by it. So many, some people got it, but a lot of people were like, oh, he did it because of this reason, or he did it because of that reason, or he did it because he hates these people, or he hates that people, or whatever. And you're like, no, there was no hate here involved. It's just making this point. And then of course, once someone has that idea, they'll go and spread that to other people. And it's like Chinese whispers. Stuff
Yeah,
eventually
exactly.
just becomes totally different from what the intention was. But
Yeah, and after a while, it's out of your control, right?
exactly.
Do you Actually, let's stay on this because you went out to the States. You're the first person that I know that got on the Joe Rogan Show. Congratulations!
Oh, thank you, bro.
Smashed it.
Thank you.
Absolutely smashed it. Bro, like, did you have this? Was this mapped out in any way? Was it like, yeah, you got it kind of, you got a bit of a diary, but like once I get on terra firma, once I get into the US, I'm going full throttle. You know, was it more like that, or was it constructed by, you know?
A little bit of both. So in terms of me going viral, that was not planned out. I didn't put out that tweet thinking, okay, this is going to be the piece of content that millions of people see and that people are going to now know me for, right? I didn't set out to be like, okay, I want people to know me as the British female deadlift champion. Like that's what people are. That's what people, you know, like.
Okay, I'm going to say it. Fucking genius.
Of all the things I could be known for in the world, that wasn't really sort of what I planned out.
Kills me.
But what happened is that, you know, that did happen, and what was great is because I've done so much work over the past decade plus through my music, through everything else that I do. A lot of people discovered me through that, but then they were like, "Oh, okay, there's a lot more to this person than just this. Oh, he raps. Oh, he's got a podcast. Oh, he's quite interesting. He's funny. Whatever." So that's what led to the growth in the following and the audience.
Yeah.
So in terms of me going to the States, I actually had so I'd been invited to do the Ruben Report and the Joe Rogan podcast. And then once I sort of had those two in the bag and I knew I was going to the States, more dominoes just started falling. So I was
Because
just like,
you'd
look,
already got the kudos of those two. Off the
yeah,
bat.
yeah. And I was telling people, you know, like I went to LA first. So it's like, look, I'm in LA for 2 weeks. If anyone, I've never been here before. If you want to talk to me, if you've got a podcast, a YouTube channel, whatever, you want to interview me, you just want to hang out, let's do it. I did the same thing in San Francisco, in Dallas, in Atlanta, and you know every city that I went to.
Amazing.
And
amazing.
more and more opportunities just kept coming. And I mean, it was an incredible trip. It was a truly, truly incredible trip. There was so much love. And it's interesting because
it was crazy watching it. It was
yeah,
crazy watching it.
yeah.
So
And thank you, bro. Thank you. And you know, it really felt good because we live in a very online world, probably now more than ever before with this social distancing thing. And the thing about online is you can see the numbers and you can see statistics and analytics and stuff. You can see how many people download this podcast, how many people listen on YouTube, etc. But as you know, you're a performer, you do live performances, and there's a difference between seeing numbers rack up on a YouTube channel and being in front of people and actually receiving that love. You do a gig and people are coming up to you after and say, yo, man, like what you did is so sick. I love this. Someone stopping you in the street, whatever. That's just a whole different feeling than a sort of cold, hard number, which doesn't really mean anything to you. Like you can sort of fathom it, but you also really don't.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. And that whole influencer thing and your information getting passed, whether it's something viral or something off of a leg up from a Joe Rogan experience. You know what I mean? You don't know how vast your net is going.
No.
In the social media world, are you going on the search of Instagram? Are you being on the front page of YouTube? You just never know. You can't quantify what the effects are.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
It's very hard to quantify. And, you know, you get those just anecdotal experiences. So, I mean, towards the end of the trip, the second to last city that I went to was Washington, D.C. And that was crazy. I mean, I was only in D.C. for like 5 or 6 days, but I got invited to the Pentagon, and I got invited to I went to the White House twice. Right,
Stop it.
Yeah.
Get the fuck out.
So
I'm gonna go to America. First time go to America. Before you finish the trip, you're in the White House.
It was and that's crazy. So and not only was I in the White House, but I was in the White House, and I had multiple people in the White House come up to me and be like, "Are you Zuby? Oh yeah, like, you know, I follow you on social media," or saw your interview with the Rogan, or I saw your interview with Ben Shapiro or whatever. And I'm just like, I'm in the White House right now and I'm being recognized. And this is trippy. And then I came out of the White House and there were some girls just walking by who stopped and were like, "Oh, are you Zuby? Oh, we saw you on the news the other day." And you're just like, what is going on here? And it's just trippy. And that's like, wow, okay. It just shows you don't know you don't know how many people you're reaching. You really don't know.
It's incredible. So this was not mapped out. This wasn't this wasn't constructed. This was something that you were just going both barrels. You were just going into that country going.
Yeah, definitely, man. I mean, in terms of the White House thing, like that was crazy. I mean, I literally a couple days before I went to DC. So where was I before? I was in Nashville. And when I was
you went deep. I remember this.
Yeah. So I was in Nashville and I literally tweeted, "I'm going to DC next week. Can anyone get me into the White House?" And 2 days later, I received 2 invitations. Like, I didn't even know that there's people who work in the White House who follow me on Twitter. Like that. There are people in the there are people literally in the US government who follow me on, like, I didn't know that, you know what I mean? And so I just receive invitations and I'm like, what? This is trippy. Yeah. And then another one of my fans is, he works in security at the Pentagon. He's like, "Oh, if you want to tour the Pentagon, just come through, like we'll hook it up." So I'm suddenly there and I'm going to all these buildings and I'm walking around in places that I've only seen in films and on TV. Yeah. And it was really surreal, but it was amazing. It was a big honor because I was just like, wow. I mean, I have a lot of American followers and fans, and they were like, "Man, I've lived in America for 50 years and I've never had a chance to never had a chance to do what you just did." So I was like, man, like this is really a blessing, and I try not to.
How much of it do you think is right? You start on your journey and the synergy's right, things are connecting as you go along. You know your journey is fraught, but you're going for it. How much of it is just luck's the wrong word, but how much of it do you feel is like that positive energy that you're bringing and just knowing it will work out? A lot of it's on the fly, right?
Yeah. I'm a big believer that, perseverance and persistence always pays off eventually. I think you do have to be working on the right thing, but if you keep on planting seeds and you keep on watering them, you keep on showing up every day, and you just keep on doing that, then assuming that, I mean, like I said, you have to be working on the right thing. If you're terrible at football, then you're not going to get into the Premiership no matter how much you work at football, right? But if you're doing something that makes sense and that you've got a capacity and potential in, then it might take 5 years, it might take 10, 15, 20, 30 years, but you will make progress. And another thing is, people like to help out people who are already helping themselves. Yeah, so if you want, if you want opportunities, if you want people to give you chances and to let you do this and to let you do that, then the best thing to do is to go and just create your own thing. And then once you have your own thing going, people will see, oh, okay, this guy's already, it's a bit like, if a car breaks down and you see someone pushing a car, you're likely to get out and help push as well. And then people are like, oh, okay, the car is already moving. Like, let's go and push that car. Whereas if
then wait for the AA to show up.
Exactly. If you see a car that's stopped and the person is just standing there next to it, then you don't feel any inclination to get out of your car and go help them push because you see that they're not pushing. But when you see them already pushing, it's like, oh, that triggers something in your brain. And you're like, okay, cool. Let me go out and help this person because they're already helping themselves. So that's how I look at it. It's the same with business. If you look at things like Dragon's Den or investing in general, right? They want to know, okay, how many have you already sold? What are you already doing, right? What am I investing in? You already doing something. If you just show up on Dragon's Den and you're just like, oh, I have this idea, and they're grilling you and they're like, oh, how many have you sold? It's like, oh, I haven't sold it yet, but I have this idea, right? You're going to get laughed out of the room. But if you come up and they're like, yeah, I've already got this going, then suddenly all of these people are going to want to help you. and they'll give you opportunities and everything like that. I mean, look at what you do with this podcast. It's the same thing, right? Because you've already got this thing going, so you can now reach out to other people, and they want to come on, and you can go on and help them with this and whatever. But if you just sort of sat around and waited for some magic to happen, then it won't. You know, you have to plant the seeds.
The thing that I get excited about the most, I know it sounds corny maybe in a way, but it's the truth, is I like it when people like yourself, for instance, you say, yeah, I'll come on, and I'm like, yeah, I'm stoked, fucking gassed. You come on, we kill it, have a great time. My thing that I love is showing and proving and honoring that you did that. I like the next day when I start pushing buttons and setting little fires in places that may resonate with you, seeing it and being like, fuck, I'm glad I did that now because he's I can see what he's doing now, and it's making sense. I love that feeling of that cooperative thing. You know what I mean? Love it.
Yeah, definitely, man. And dude, I love seeing people succeed. I'm a big fan of. I feel like that. You know, I feel like there's almost sort of 2 or 3 categories of people in the world. There's sort of the people who sort of are congratulators, and then you have people who are haters, and then you have people who are, you know, more sort of ambivalent, if you know what I mean. And I'm very.
How do you mean by that? Give me an example of ambivalent.
So people, what I mean, you know, people who are just neutral. You know, they don't really care. So if someone does something and they succeed, like I like to see everybody. I want everybody to succeed. Like I genuinely mean that. Even people who I don't necessarily know, or like if I see someone achieve something cool, it legitimately makes me feel good, because I have an abundance mentality. So there are some people, this is sort of where the hater mentality stems from, I think, is some people think that everything in life, in the world, is zero sum. So if something good happens to someone else, or someone else has something, that means that they took it from somebody else, or it means that somebody else can't have it or whatever. Whereas that's not the case. So you were talking about me going on the Joe Rogan podcast. Joe has the biggest podcast in the world. So some people will look at that and be like, wow, that's amazing. That's inspirational. I want to start a podcast, right? He can do that. So why don't I start a podcast? Why don't I take some of that inspiration? Someone with a hater mentality will think, oh, by him doing that, that means that no one else can, he's occupying all this space, so no one else can do that, or he doesn't deserve it, or he doesn't, whatever, you know? It's a bit like people who think that everyone who's a millionaire or a billionaire is rich because they jacked everybody else, right? So they stole, they only have that because they stole from everybody else. And it's like, no, that's not how people become wealthy. And also money is not, this is big sort of economics now, but money is not a fixed pie, right? The pie is always growing. So if someone else makes $1 million, they didn't make $1 million. That doesn't mean that you now cannot make $1 million, right? You can also make $1 million, and that other person can also. We can all make $1 million. You've got to offer a lot of value to the world. You have to earn the money. But the fact that one person does it, that doesn't sort of that's not taking away from someone else. And that's how I look at everything in the world. And so I like to congratulate people and just stay in that positive mind frame, encourage others, be optimistic, everything like that. That's really where my head is at.
100%. And, you know, on the subject of ownership of money and the value of something, I was talking to Todd Terry, dance producer, a couple of last month, and he was keen to point out in the subject, he was like, can you imagine having that value on your head? Can you imagine the sleepless nights it is to be a person that is a multi-millionaire, and what they have to kind of go through to have that, almost the burden's the wrong term, but what it takes to live with $1 million plus in your bank. The work must be crazy.
Yeah, you know what I mean? I think people it just creates new problems.
Yeah. Right?
People have this idea that money fixes all problems and whatever, which, you know, it's been studied very well that it really doesn't. It shows, you know, once people are pretty comfortable, then any increase in money doesn't make people any happier. And you know, we see this, right? How many multi-millionaire celebrities or actors or musicians or whatever have fallen into horrible depression or have even killed themselves or have gone, you know, it's like, sure, someone from the outside, you may always think, oh, I want what this person has, or I want that person's life or whatever, but that's really superficial because all people see is people tend to see one aspect of somebody's life. So you could see someone on the street driving in a Lamborghini, right? And you might be thinking, man, I bet that guy's got the sickest life. Like you don't know, you're seeing one aspect of it. He could be a raging alcoholic with a horrible, you know, he's going through a bitter divorce and
crazy credit card bills.
You don't know what he's going through, right? You may actually be way better off in the grand scheme of things than that person is. And we just don't know, right? You don't I think this happens with celebrities a lot because we live in this celebrity culture. And I think so many people aspire to have this sort of celebrity lifestyle. But if you actually, when you scratch beneath the surface and you see what's going on with them, like they have all the problems and sometimes more problems than the average person does. And no matter how much money or fame or whatever somebody has, it doesn't remotely mean, you know, might mean that one aspect of their life is great. You know, maybe they're secure and they don't have to worry about money. But another side is totally different. And perhaps they still have to worry about money, but just in a different way. You know, I'm sure I'm sure that Bill Gates worries about money. He's, you know, how many billions, whatever, but you're worrying about money now in a whole different way. You know, like, I don't know. Like, I haven't been there. I can't fathom what it's like to have 1,000 million pounds, but, I imagine it comes with its own weird issues. You know what I mean? Like, what do you even,
I think there's I think there's a mentality to everything. There's a certain mentality to everyone and everything they do. And I know that sounds quite broad. I think for a millionaire to be a millionaire, there's some sleepless nights. There's a work ethic. There's a crazy drive that doesn't match the value of what they're getting. It's just a day in, day out habitual thing that they do, which kind of leads me into my next kind of subject to you, because I think you're well versed in talking deeper into this. But yeah, that millionaire thing of like, well, how do you even process your day? That kind of level of abundance with our presence online, the output that you put out to the world as a podcaster, an artist, musician, author. People could argue that, well, how do you compete in your lifestyle like that? How do you make that? That's an abundance of. How do you get that stuff out to the public? How does that equate to a lifestyle and a living? You know what I mean? That could be said for the same thing in terms of, you know, of work ethic that you hold as well, and myself, you know.
Yeah, it's a tricky one to answer. Can you be a little more specific in the question, maybe?
Well, actually, maybe what I'm coming to, what I'm getting an idea of is with the amount that when you have like you wake up in the morning and the day in the life of Zuby is, right, I've got these commercial assets for this podcast, I've got this commercial trailer or a fly poster for my new book, I've got this viral video ready to go of me doing my second deadlift world record, and I'm also in Washington DC about to go to the White House.
Yeah.
That to anybody would just be like a slow meltdown, a malfunction of like, what the fuck's going, right?
Yeah.
But these are plates that you're spinning all the time, and I guess what I'm saying is how.
I think the first thing is that I enjoy it all. You know, I enjoy it. I'm very blessed and I'm grateful to be in a position where I don't do a lot of things that I don't enjoy. You know, I love making music. I love doing podcasts. I like public speaking. I enjoy business and promotion. I enjoy making videos. So I don't get worn down and I don't get stressed out because the things I'm doing, even when it gets busy, I legitimately am enjoying what I'm doing. And then beyond that, in terms of actually doing it, a lot of it is about prioritization. So
systems.
Yeah, just I just try to prioritize what is important? What's the most important thing at the time? Okay, there's 10 different things I can be working on right now. Which one is the highest priority? What do I need to do at this moment? And what's the best thing I can do at this moment to make sure that I keep going forward and I keep planting those seeds and I keep making the most of these opportunities, etc. I think that's the best thing. And then over time, learning what to say yes to, learning what to say no to. At some point, you have to start protecting your time. One weird thing that happened to me last year was the shift where I went from feeling like I didn't have enough opportunities to feeling like I have too many opportunities. So going from seeking things out and constantly being on the hustle to try to get on this or try to get on that or do this or do that. And then a couple months down the line, it's like, whoa, I can't even say yes to everything because I'm getting so many offers and things like that I need to work out. Okay, I only have this many waking hours in a day and I need to get this done. So I now need to prioritize. And I'm still working on this. It's a continuous process. And I understand that, the bigger I get or the more successful I get or whatever, the more difficult this is all going to be. But
because you're doing all the back end stuff as well, which was the other thing I was thinking as I was saying all these things. I'm like, if something goes down on your website or you've got to respond to a tweet or you've got this happening at 1 o'clock that you forgot, all of this is subject to change at any given time.
It is, yeah. I'm grateful that I am good at one. I'm a very low stress individual. I'm not someone who gets stressed easily or has anxiety or anything like that. So that helps firstly because that's just a personality trait. I don't do anything magic for that. It's just how I am. And then, beyond that, I think I'm getting to a stage where I'm going to need to probably start handing some things off to other people, not the majority of stuff, but things that take up a lot of my time and which I don't necessarily need to do myself. Then this year, that's something that I'm sort of looking into more. So seeing, okay, what is it this thing's taking me 10 hours a week and I don't need to be doing this personally. So can I outsource this to someone else or can someone help me with this or whatever? So, but it's fun. It's a challenge, but it's also it's what makes it exciting, because we're all learning as we go. I mean, both myself and yourself, what we do, there's not really a blueprint or a handbook to it all. It's kind of like, you get started and you get going, and over time you learn new skills and you pick up different stuff. As we're recording this podcast, as I was saying to you earlier, I'm seeing you've got this cool video layout. You have the clips there. You've got all this cool stuff. So yeah, exactly. So I'm there looking at this like, oh, that's a cool idea. Maybe with my own podcast, that's something I can incorporate at some point, or I see someone else doing that or whatever. And so you just learn over time. I know you have advertisers and sponsors on your show now. I imagine when you started, you didn't know how to get a sponsor. You didn't know how to do this, how to do that or whatever. And over time, you just learn, you pick up new skills. And then over time, you become, you probably don't even know, you become an expert. And then you have other people asking you, oh, hey, Killa Kela, how did you do this? How did you go about doing that? How did you even make a podcast? How does that work? Or how did you get this guest? Or how did you do that? Or, and I'm
going to get that question after this.
Okay.
Yeah. It's fire. When do you think is this is more of a personal question actually, because I often get struck with it, and that is when is content too much content? Is there enough? I mean, is it the Gary Vee approach of like, just throw it, who cares, throw it.
Yeah. Wow.
I mean, what do you think?
That's a good question. I think more is better. I think that quantity is quality as long as the quality is good enough. I think if you strive for perfection on absolutely everything, then you'll never put stuff out there. I think that once stuff is good enough, which good enough could also mean great. It could mean excellent. Then I think more is better. I think it's weird because in theory, it seems like almost everything should be saturated in this day and age, right? We don't need any more music.
Yes, it's fuck.
We don't need more music. We don't need more books. We don't need more podcasts. We don't need more content in general. We've got enough content for the next 100,000 years of humanity, right? You already can't consume. You can't watch every video on YouTube. You can't read every book in the library. There's too much. But it doesn't matter. Human beings always want more. And if you have an audience, then they always want more of you. And it doesn't mean that they need to consume absolutely everything that you do. I don't think there's a single person in the world who reads, watches, listens to every single thing that I put out there. But people can pick and choose. And look, everything you put out there is gonna help and impact somebody. Even if this one hits 5 people, this one hits 100. Oh, that one hit 10,000 people. But if you're offering something of value, then there can't be too much. If someone is offering you something of value or making your life better in some way, shape, or form, then it's really difficult for them to give you too much.
That's right.
Yeah,
you're absolutely right. And if it comes from the heart as well, like if you're loving what you're doing, that's just going to resonate. And you may just, like you say, there may be, okay, for argument's sake, there may be 10 people that like one thing. Those 10 people may not see the next thing you do, but another 20 people will see that, or 5 will see another. And before you know that, like we say, that snowball synergy, that snowball effect kicks in, and you can't quantify it. Again, you just can't gauge it, can you? It's just throwing it out there.
No, there are people who there are YouTubers who put out 5 videos a day.
Yeah, okay. That's mad.
There are people who put out 10 videos a day, and their audience doesn't think that that's too much. So, they put out in a week as many videos as I put out in a year, if not more. Yeah. And they can do it, and they're happy to do it. So, I think the capacity is totally different. You have musicians. I mean, how many songs has Lil Wayne released?
Oh, mate, you know what? I was talking about him the other day, bro. I was like, it's so true.
He was crazy.
On every feature back in 2010, right?
Yeah. Look, I mean, Tupac died when he was 25, and he's still got songs coming out that I haven't heard, right? So there's not really a limit on these things. And, people can always pick and choose. It's not like stuff is being... I think back in the day when it came to entertainment, certainly, is that stuff used to sort of be almost just programmed and forced on people, right? People weren't able to pick and choose. So whether you're listening to the radio or watching traditional TV or whatever, you could get burned out because it's just a set period of time and you don't have control over it. Now, if you're on YouTube, it's like there are literally, I don't know, billions of videos at all times. And you pick and choose. If you're on Spotify, Apple Music, you pick and choose what you want to listen to. So no matter how much stuff is in that catalog, it doesn't matter because you can just pick and select. If you're listening to radio,
it's never enough, is it?
Yeah. If you're listening to radio and they're playing the same song every 30 minutes, then okay, that can become too much. But if you're in control of it, if you want to listen to that same song 30 times in a row, go ahead. You're welcome to. If you want to listen to 30 different ones, go ahead. You're welcome to. So I certainly don't worry about. I feel like I'd love to put out 10 times as much stuff as I currently do.
Yeah, of course. Don't we all? I mean, I totally feel that. Now you got me thinking, because this really does boil down to the marketing of each area. Now let's go back to that what you just said there about back in the day. There was only radio, TV, and satellite. Right now, with all these different portals, and I think about this sometimes about the live stream show I do with the podcast I do, and they're not one and the same. Now I'm thinking more about it. I'm like, there's a different market for this. There's a whole different eyes and ears watching this compared to there, and it's on a different social platform. It's like, I guess this is how, again, it's putting your head in, a new head on, and saying, right, how do I market to Instagram? How do I market to Facebook? How do I basically have extra arms and ideas and entrepreneurial skills that allow that thing to go viral, that thing to activate and loads of people check it out. It's such it's the biggest Rubik's cube of a plan on the planet, isn't it? You just got to figure it out, haven't you?
Yeah, you do, man. And like I said, we're always learning, and things are changing. And look, everything we do, it's all new too. This is something I think people forget is how new this all is.
Totally.
This is all new. Everything we're doing, what we're doing right now, this did not exist 20 years ago. Right?
It didn't exist last week, bro.
Like everything is new. We are at like a brand new time of human history. We're in some huge experiment right now with the internet, social media, smartphones, podcasts, YouTube, live video. All of this stuff is, we're sort of used to it. We adapt very quickly. But I mean, if you could talk to your great grandparents and just describe the world that we live in today, they'd be like, what are you even talking about? What do you mean you can talk? What do you mean you can talk to somebody across the world? With what do you even mean? Like, like the whole thing, you wouldn't even be able to explain it. You wouldn't even be able to explain it. So it's almost like it's borderline magic what we have right now. And I think on one hand, I think people sort of understand it. But on the other hand, people really don't. People really sort of underestimate just how incredible this is and how much it just changes human beings and the way we interact. I mean, look, we're social distancing right now. We're all on lockdown. And I mean, imagine this scenario without the internet, right? Or without telephones. Like if you were just, like you're legitimately socially isolated from other people. Maybe if you have a family, you've got a couple people in the house or whatever, but that's it. You can't record a podcast. You can't listen to a podcast. You can't do this. You can't reach out to that person. And so it's weird. Sometimes it blows my mind when I just think of what is possible. I can reach in my pocket right now and I can post a message, a video, a photo, whatever, to hundreds, to over 100,000 people, just like that, immediately. And they can then pick up their magic device and they can look at it and it's there. And that's crazy. That's just, it's bonkers. Like we're so used to it that we don't think about it. But when you really think about it, you're like, whoa. And none of us really understand it. I mean, I'm a computer science graduate myself, so I actually understand it better than most people. But I still don't really understand it. Like, I'm like, I don't know. How does that work?
When you put it into bare bones of where the world is, and the younger generation, the next generations, and how, when you think of like the Blitz of London, you imagine like the quarantine that they had. It was just, you aren't even getting daylight. No. You're just staying in. It's even where we're at now, in the privy of having this connectivity, even though we are locked in. Can you imagine what it's going to be like for like your kids in the future or your friends' kids in the future?
Crazy.
Unthinkable. These high-class problems that they're going to have.
Nuts. It's nuts. And stuff moves so quickly. People forget. When was the first iPhone invented? 2006, I think.
Yeah. YouTube came out in like late 2006, to my knowledge.
Yeah, 2006. Like, that's not that long ago.
That is not to us.
that is not that long ago. You know what I mean? And it's like we've gotten so used to it all, and this is new. This is new. I mean, I'm still a young man, but I mean, when I was like a young child, I remember you couldn't even draw a circle on a computer screen.
No,
right?
That's right.
They didn't have enough pixels to render a circle, right? So if you were playing a video game or something, and the circles were squares or maybe an octagon, like a jagged, that you couldn't even do a circle. And so graphics have gone from that to, you now look at PC games or Xbox One or PS4 or whatever, and you've got like beads of sweat dripping down people's faces, and like,
talking on their things, talking to people.
Yeah. and it's all, and you're just like, wow, that's just in my lifetime. And what we have now, I don't have children yet, but when I do, when they're my age, what we have now is going to look as primitive as what that looks to me, like the Atari 2600, right? or like, those old PCs, Apple IIe or whatever, what we have right now, these phones or whatever, they're going to be looking at this and they're going to be like, oh my gosh, you used to, what is this? Like kids now look at VHS tapes or like even CDs and they're like, what is this? Like, what do you do? A cassette tape? What do I do with this? And that's how they're going to look at everything we have now. They're going to be like, wow, you used to use that. Wow.
And that's exciting, man. I get excited about the idea of it. I mean, as much as it comes with its own burdens and I know people get a bit weird about that sort of thing, as if like there's some conspiracy theories that come along with that technological baggage, you know what I mean? But I don't believe so. I feel like the speed of it all is because we're learning quick, and a few opportunities of technology have opened because of circumstances that have happened in the past. We're able to, you know what I mean, have a coffee and use Wi-Fi with the same Wi-Fi system that was used to fucking bomb submarines in the Second World War.
Yeah, it's nuts. I think what's important through it all, and again through this lockdown period, is just maintaining the fear I have is of people sort of losing their humanity. That's what my concern is, right? I think that throughout it all, the technology is great, but I don't think you ever want technology to totally replace the genuine human experience and the ability for people to connect with everything. And I think this whole social distancing thing has been really interesting. I don't know about you, but the social distancing is the hardest part of this lockdown for me. It's not being at home or, I like traveling and being able to go places or whatever. The hardest part for me is actually, man, I haven't seen my parents, my brothers, my sisters, my friends, or even just when you go to the shop or you see someone, just being able to, shake somebody's hand or hug somebody or just be out there or whatever. For me, that's the hardest part. It's just like, man, that's weird. You go outside and you walk to the street and walk to the shop and people are standing apart from each other. People don't really even want to make eye contact. Everyone's kind of like, for me, that's the weirdest thing. That's the part that I really don't like. I'm kind of like, man.
I think it's because we're used to, as artists first, we're used to being self-containment. We're used to our own space and finding things to do. And if we're busy and like doing things that we love, that's even worse because sometimes you forget to even call anyone. But I know exactly what you mean. Because
weird
to go down the road.
Yeah, because normally, even if you're someone who's somewhat used to social isolation, you normally have a break from it. It's not normally for weeks on end, right? You normally will still, you go out and you play a gig, you do a live podcast, you do something, you go out and, you connect with people, see people eye to eye, everything like that. Whereas now, I mean, for the first couple of days, it was okay. And then now, I don't know how long are we into this now? Around two and a bit weeks or something. Right now, it's starting to sort of, I'm doing okay, but it's weird. It's just like, oh, this is odd that you can't just, or even when you're in the shop, anytime even when you do talk to someone, like if you do go outside and you're seeing people talking, and they're standing 2 meters apart, and they're having everything's just a bit weird. You're just like, why can't you just, and everyone's sort of like looking at each other. You go out and you go for a jog outside and two people are jogging on the same side of the street and one person crosses over the road to go to the other side. And it just feels, why people are doing it, but it's just, it's just odd. So I hope we never reach a stage where that is the norm. That would be disturbing.
Yeah. And fingers crossed it won't be. Fingers crossed this is a mere blip in a lifetime. It's you're right. It's such a bizarre. It borders on trust. Like you're looking at people and they're looking at you and you're talking to them. All this is paranoia. It's paranoia.
It really is paranoia. Yeah. And okay, I touched something, I need to wash my hands and it's it's strange. It's strange.
Well, we'll see, shall we? We shall see. Brother, thank you so much for this. It's been insightful. Awesome as always. It's always a pleasure talking to you, brother. Really Likewise. Fucking great.
Likewise, bro. Appreciate it.
When's your podcast out? When's the next ones? When's it? How regular?
Every Friday. Every Friday.
Every Friday.
Yep.
And
It's called Real Talk with Zuby.
That's the one.
Yeah.
So go check that out, people. Real Talk Podcast, Zuby. He's holding it down, plus new tunes all the time. If you don't know, get to know him on Twitter, get to know him on Instagram. He's out on his travels, eventually be back in the States, and richly deserved to. Killing it.
Yeah,
man.
No doubt. At Zuby Music on everything.
That's the one, brother. Thank you so much.
Love, bro. Take care.
Take care, brother. Killa Kela Podcast, out like Imma's out of fashion. Don't forget to subscribe. Hit your favourite podcast platforms. Killa Kela Podcast. You stay lucky, people. Peace.